Channel 4 News. This is The Scene at 6 with Jeff McAtee, Dimitri Kaladinos, Bill Hall, and Rudy Kalis.
Oh, it's light.
Good evening. A Nashville man is free tonight after being held hostage for nearly 3 weeks in eastern Turkey. Amateur archaeologist Ron Wyatt was one of 5 Westerners reportedly kidnapped while searching for remains of Noah's Ark. The U.S. State Department told Wyatt's family that he was taken by members of the Kurdish Workers' Party, a rebel group fighting for an independent Kurdish state. But tonight, Wyatt contacted his wife, Mary Nell, by phone, and she joins us now live with the latest. What did your husband tell you?
Well, about 40 minutes ago, I received a phone call, and I picked up the phone, and my husband went, "Hi, it's me." And it was exactly the way I had envisioned it happening, and he said, "I'm fine. I really am." And I said, "I know you were." Then he told me he was in Bengal, the city of Bengal, at the gendarme headquarters, that he couldn't talk. He was headed to Ankara and would be allowed to call me tomorrow.
Is there any indication that he was mistreated in any way?
No, his voice sounded just like same old Ron.
Do you have any idea, Mary Nell, why he was abducted?
Oh, I mean, speculation based on, you know, the German tourists who were taken earlier, is that these Kurds are just trying to get attention and embarrass Turkey by showing that they're really in control of that part of the country. I don't pretend to understand all the politics, but I've never really believed he was in any danger, just that these people were trying to make a point.
Who managed to get him released?
I don't know any details at all.
Do you think he's coming back home now? Have his plans changed at all?
I don't know that either. I did receive a phone call from the Australian, some of Dr. Alan Roberts' friends, who was the Australian with them, and they told me he indicated that he would be going to London to get some medical treatment. He had broken his ankle and had some pins in his ankle, and apparently this was giving him problems, and he would be headed there for medical treatment. But other than that, I have received no word whatsoever where my husband may go.
Except for a happy phone call tonight, and we're glad you shared the good news with us. Thank you, Mary Nell Wyatt, for joining us live.
Thank you.
This is Nashville's #1 source for late-night news. News Channel 5's 10 o'clock report with Chris Clark.
A very pleasant good evening, everyone. A Nashville explorer kidnapped by Kurdish guerrillas is free tonight. Ron Wyatt was abducted last month in Turkey while looking for religious artifacts. He and 4 other men were working on a feature-length film about what they say is the discovery of Noah's Ark. Wyatt's wife says she cannot wait to see her husband, but her first concern is that he be able to continue his work.
Between it, I want him to finish his work because he's been wanting to do this, to be able to excavate a part of Noah's Ark since 1977. And
This is Channel 2 News, Nightside, with popular meteorologist Davis Nolan and the sports guy, Steve Phillips.
Good evening. Topping 10 at 10, a Nashvilleian kidnapped by Kurdish separatists in Turkey is free tonight. Amateur archaeologist Ron Wyatt was released after 3 weeks in captivity. He's now in Ankara, Turkey, and as Channel 2's Mimi Bliss reports, his family is just glad he's safe.
I think he's doing just fine. He sounded just like Ron.
That's not bad.
Mary Wyatt is flooded with calls about her husband Ron's release. Mary got the good news just after 5 o'clock.
And the phone rang, and I picked up the phone, and I heard, "Hi, it's me," just like he always sounds.
Ron Wyatt was kidnapped 3 weeks ago in eastern Turkey. The amateur archaeologist is part of a group searching for Noah's Ark. Wyatt has faced many dangers in his previous travels to remote corners of the world. His wife was always confident that he would survive this latest threat, and she'd get the long-awaited phone call.
I always knew it would come. I didn't know when, but I knew it would.
Mary Wyatt won't learn the details of her husband's captivity until he's been debriefed by the Turkish and American military. But she has no doubt that her husband's quest for Noah's Ark will continue. Wyatt expressed those same convictions in an interview with Channel 2 News 5 years ago.
I believe that God has preserved time capsules in different parts of the world, mostly in the Far East or Middle East there, and that these are to get the attention of people.
Wyatt's wife says that despite an emotional 3 weeks, she would never expect her husband to abandon his search for Noah's Ark. Mimi Bliss, Channel 2 News, Nightside.
Mary Wyatt expects a call from her husband tomorrow. She hopes he'll have details on his return to Nashville. A Fisk University Foods.
Revolutionary steps. The strength to... ARN TV, Channel 2. This is Channel 2 News, Nightside, with John Clark and Kathy Egan, Lisa Patton with weather, and Jeff Rhodes on sports.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us. Topping 10 at 10 tonight, you might think Nashville-based archaeologist Ron Wyatt would want to return home as soon as possible, especially after being just released from 3 weeks of captivity. He told his family earlier today that he'd be home Tuesday. But now, as Channel 2's Grant Rampey reports, Wyatt plans to return to the site where Turkish separatists kidnapped him last month.
It's just one of those things. I don't think lightning's going to strike twice.
Mary Wyatt's been waiting anxiously for word of her husband's release. It came Friday, followed closely by some new video of Ron Wyatt looking healthy and fit.
He looks fine. He looks like he's lost some weight, yeah.
The latest word is that Turkish police rescued Ron Wyatt from his captors. Initial reports said he had been freed.
He's out of dangerous way. They're receiving total protection from the Turkish government at this time and the American military. So he's safe. I'm not concerned about his safety at all.
Ron was at work on a documentary about the discovery of Noah's Ark when he was kidnapped. He isn't giving up on the project. Ron now tells his wife he wants a few more days to finalize his work.
The area has to be secured that it's in.
Mary expects Ron home next weekend, but she says even if she has to wait a little longer, the importance of Ron's work makes it easy to be patient. Grant Rampey, Channel 2 News, Nightside.
Metro Police.
In Turkey, authorities now say Turkish police rescued him. Earlier reports said kidnappers had simply released Wyatt. Also tonight, Wyatt's wife, Mary Nell, says he won't be coming home this week as originally thought. Channel 4 News today showed Mary Nell these pictures taken at a U.S. airbase in Turkey. That's Ron talking to reporters. He says he was kidnapped by Kurdish rebels and held hostage for 3 weeks in the eastern province of Turkey.
You know, you can tell anybody anything on the phone, but when you see them, especially how they're reacting while he's talking and sitting around, that tells me a lot.
Mary Nell says her husband appeared thin and tired. She says she'll provide details of his ordeal when he returns to Nashville. Mary Nell thought that Ron would be coming home on Tuesday, but tonight, she tells us Ron now plans to stay in Turkey a bit longer to complete some work.
For the family last week, not released, Wyatt's wife says Turkish police freed him from his captors. The Nashville man was kidnapped in August. He's expected back home on Tuesday, but now he plans to stay in Turkey for a few more days. No word tonight on the outcome of a meeting between
Nashville. From Channel 4 News, this is The Scene at 10 with Dimitria Kaladimos, Jeff McAtee, Bill Hall, and Rudy Kalis.
Wyatt will make headlines again tomorrow. He's expected to arrive back home tomorrow afternoon. Wyatt was kidnapped 3 weeks ago in Turkey while on a search for Noah's Ark. The Metro School Board tomorrow night will consider a lesson plan on high technology. The plan includes 2 of the city's major corporations. And a special luncheon tomorrow marks
Well, it seems nobody's here yet. I guess we'll be here in a while.
Hey, now we're on.
This is Tom.
Hi, glad we could all be here.
Yeah, I had to bring
What
Tom
gate's he
today.
coming in?
He's coming in
Down there.
B3.
So you don't want to be around?
B3. I'm going to get back down there.
Oh, okay. There's right now.
Wave, you look great. Oh, no. My parents are here.
Are they? Yeah, already the first going down the hallway. Oh, sure, yeah. I didn't know what they were going to do. You know, and so we just started bumping. Hey, guys, how do y'all feel about your dad going back to Turkey?
Are you apprehensive about that? Is that okay with you being visited? Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will serve as the final immediate boarding call for.
Can I take that down there and film him getting off?
I guess, sure.
Which windows it is?
Oh, there he is.
He's got a cane.
Sweetheart. Hey, Dad.
Good to see you, Dad.
Made it back, huh?
Yeah, I did it again.
We missed out on that
Yeah,
one.
we missed out.
I'm sure, hey, Mark, I'm sure you guys were really tore up that you missed it, huh?
Yeah. Did you bring a souvenir?
Hey there. Yeah, this is my stick.
Oh, well, you
Kind of got a
carried it around. Oh, really?
Thankful.
They let you use that.
I'm just getting a picture. You go ahead and give your daddy a hug.
Hi there. Well, bless your hearts. Love you all. Well, if things happen to freeze, I got to do it one more time.
Yeah.
Amanda.
Take your bag?
Here, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I gotta go get the battery out of that room. Thanks. Did I do that button? I did. Oh.
Y'all want to go back here for a while?
Boy, this is gonna.
Just slow.
Oh, that happened while you were walking around?
Yeah. You wouldn't believe this place we were.
I never knew there was any woods or anything over there.
Well, it was down in the southeast. We went down to find the Tower of Babel, possibly. And this is called the Black Hell that they had us in. And I mean, that's a perfect description. We were walking along the side of a canyon that just didn't seem to have any bottom in it at all. One little slide of the foot and just goodbye a cruel world. You know. But anyway.
So y'all would just walk every day?
Well, every night.
Oh, every night.
Yeah, they had helicopters out looking for us, so we'd travel at night. And in the daytime, they'd make us lay down under the trees and stuff.
What was the weather like over there?
It was, well, it rained on us twice.
Oh.
We didn't have any shelter or anything.
Oh, really? What about the people you were with?
They just slept out in the...
Oh, did they?
Yeah. And that was the worst part of it.
Yeah, man.
Very, very...
Huh.
flashing battery.
The security forces surrounded all of us once.
How soon does it run out when it does that?
Pretty soon, probably. And demanded working. I couldn't believe it. We drove right past one of those tanks, or personnel carriers, and two columns of police. And
with the kidnappers?
Yeah. And so once they were supposed, according to my understanding, they were going to take us to a hotel and let us go. Well, the hotel was to the right of this road. They turned left. And at that point in time, I watched for an opportunity, and I reached over. I was behind the driver. I reached over and pinned him. He had a handgun in the dash and a grenade. I pinned him so he couldn't get to that stuff. Pulled the car out of gear, steered it towards the side of the bridge, and he hit the brakes. We weren't going that fast. And so I told the rest of them to get out, and I held him until they got out. But then the police were just about 100 yards behind us, and he didn't have time to do anything but get out of there. So anyway, that was how it all ended. And he may have dropped us off. You know, that might have been what he was going to do.
Now, you made the right choice.
There was just one.
I wasn't willing to take the
chance.
You made the right choice. You know, all I could handle.
All the news media is upstairs.
That's all right.
You don't feel like standing up, or would you rather sit down?
They've got a podium set up for you around with microphones and
okay, yeah. Why don't we go do that so we can get on?
Yeah, that's all right. Can we carry this up here?
Everything?
No, that was left in the minibus with Boulevard.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah, we didn't lose anything.
Boy, that's
nothing. In fact, I came out ahead by one terrorist made walking
around that over there.
Yeah.
They made it for you, huh?
Well,
didn't one guy have a hurt leg or something?
Well, he had phlebitis.
They're all up there, Mama.
All the other guys got back already?
Everybody was, you know, other
Red State group. Everybody, let's get...
Welcome back, sir. Could you maybe start off by telling us how you were captured, what it was like when you were held, and how you finally came to freedom?
Okay. We had applied for a permit to do a partial excavation on Noah's Ark, and had been told that we could pick this up on a Monday. They were having a civil holiday similar to our 4th of July. And so rather than just hang around for 3 days, we decided that we'd go down to the southeast of Turkey and look at what we thought might be an interesting archaeological site. We planned it so that we would get through this terrorist area before dark. However, the road was all torn up, and we ended up the 4th vehicle in line at the roadblock. These people came up with automatic weapons and grenades, and shall we say, they couldn't speak our language, but we got the message right quick. They just made us put our hands up, get out of the vehicle. I had on light clothes, so they made me put on some dark clothes, which happened to be Richard Reeves, who was accompanying us. And then they took us off up to the hills. We stayed out there for 21 days. On the 4th day,
take some pictures. Give it to Sandra. Give it to Sandra.
Shouting on this thing all over us. And the gist of that was the security commander commanded that they surrender and release us. The leader of the terrorist group countered that if you provoke us, we will kill the hostages immediately. They had us lined up, and they had 3 of them positioned, one to our left, one to our right, one right in front of us, with Each of them had 30 rounds of ammunition in their clip, and they would have killed us. In fact, one of the terrorists, who was pretty much a tough guy, was standing right in front of me, and tears were running down his face, so he thought the end had arrived. And at that point, I wasn't so sure of what he was right. But the Turkish security forces backed off, and they just cordoned off the entire area there, which was approximately 10 square miles, so that the terrorists could not move us from that site. They were talking about taking us down to northern Iraq, where, of course, they would have more freedom to keep us as long as they wanted to, but this was denied them by the Turkish security forces. They brought out 4,500 of their crack troops. They brought out their Rangers and their commandos. And I'd like to say I'm very much appreciative of the way they handled this. They informed the terrorists that if any harm came to us, that they would burn them out if they had to burn the whole area. And the terrorists believed it. We got treated better after that.
Were you held in captivity for 3 weeks?
21 days.
21 days.
Weeks, that's right.
What was your treatment like while you...
How did the release come about then?
Well, I was going to get to that. We were told by the terrorists that they were going to take us to a hotel in Bengal. We came down out of the mountains in a car that they had acquired, which looked very much like the car that had blocked the road the evening that we had been captured. And after riding around through the mountains and back roads, we came down into Bengal, and we actually got through the cordon of police and military. And once beyond that, this man, instead of turning towards the hotel district, went in the opposite direction. And at that point in time, I decided that it was time to do something. So I reached over the back seat, pinned him down, jerked the car out of gear, aimed it at the middle of the bridge, and he hit the brakes. And I held him until all of us got out. And by that time, the military people who were patrolling were within about 100 yards of us. So I turned this man loose. He jumped in the car and took off, and we, of course, hastened back to the gendarme officer and his men, and that's the way it came about.
Were you mistreated at any time? Were you beaten, or how was were you fed regularly?
We were not beaten. What we did basically is every night we were forced to cover great distances of this very mountainous, dangerous territory. It's called the Black Hell. This is what it's known as, and that's a very fitting description of that area. And in the daytime, we were forced to lay under the trees and lay still so that helicopters couldn't spot us. Even after this encounter with the security forces, we were fed more or less regularly. We ate sliced tomatoes, some cucumbers. They have a special bread that they cook themselves, which consists of something that looks quite a bit like an irregularly shaped placemat and tastes about half as good. And we had water and some yogurt and some maybe half-cooked goat meat a couple of times. So it wasn't any fun, but as it all turned out, I've lost about 20 pounds. I might as well go ahead and tease my wife a little bit right here. She's been suggesting that I lose some weight, but I was, shall we say, getting signed up for the terrorist fat farm was a little more than either one of us wanted, I'm sure.
When you go over your research, what was your goal in going there this time?
Well, we were after a permit to do a partial excavation on Noah's Ark, and the people assured us that we would get the permit Monday. And we got captured Friday evening. And so after 21 days of detour, none of us had time to go on back and do this work. Also, it'll be snowing over there, and there's really no time to do it this fall. So we are going to set it up for next June. And
do this partial excavation.
Why go back? Why go back after all of this? Why go back after all of this?
Well, that's where the remains of Noah's Ark are located, and we've got some more work to do on it. However, be assured that we will leave very early in the morning and not take any chances at all of being caught out at night. We'll just be much more careful.
Some of your friends and your family concerned would say, well, you got one warning, why not take this opportunity and just let it go from now on?
Well, we have enough evidence to satisfy most people. I don't know if you're up to speed on the evidence, but the last thing we found, and we found this in the presence of 26 eyewitnesses who we have affidavits from, we found a large 3.5-inch rivet head with a shaft 1.5 inches in diameter, and there are thousands of these things on the ark. There's just unbelievable quantities of archaeological remains over there, and I would like to do some more documentation if possible. Also, the Turkish government asked me to excavate it, restore it, and preserve it. And so I told them that I would try to do this. And we have the promise of some money. It hadn't been given us yet, but if any of you happen to have a few $1 million laying around that you can't figure out what to do with, allow us to invite you to come and along and pay the bills as we excavate the remains of the boat.
When will you go back? When is
June is the most probable time.
Because of the weather?
Right. Yes, it'll be snowy and wet out there up until about the 1st of June.
Ron, do you have any reason to think that they knew who you were?
Well, no. They told us that they knew we were coming. They didn't say that they knew who we were. We stopped at a gas station just outside of Erzurum, and there's really nowhere else you can go but through the area that we went once you pass that gas station, and I suspect that either somebody there called ahead and told these people, or that they had some other observers along the road that and told them that it was a hot prospect that had told them a bunch of lies. For example, they told them that the Americans were the ones that bombed the Kurds and killed a bunch of them, or at least had refueled the helicopters that did this. And when we tried to explain that the Americans were the ones that stopped Saddam Hussein from killing a lot more of them, and that they had dropped a lot of food, clothing, and that sort of thing, the hardcore people made us shut up. They didn't want these youngsters to hear that. They give them a lot of guns, a lot of ammunition, hand grenades, and a pair of tennis shoes or whatever, and lie to them. And these young folks all have what we would call the Rambo complex. And they use these youngsters for gun fodder. And they stay back in the clear. As a matter of fact, 3 of these young people had bullets in them. One of them had a bullet sticking out of his face right here, about a 1/2 inch. I was, shall we say, considering using some local anesthetic and taking it out, but there could have been lockjaw or tetanus or something that would have killed him, and then we'd have been dead meat. And I really felt sorry for these young kids because they had been snookered by these older folks, and they really didn't realize what they were doing.
How do you feel? Some of your former colleagues have called some of the claims that you've made about Noah's Ark deceptive. Are you concerned at all that your story about the kidnapping may be greeted with some skepticism?
Well, no, I wouldn't be surprised at all. As a matter of fact, the Turkish government has already received 2 anonymous letters that say I've been raising funds to support the terrorists and that we were in collusion with them. However, the Turkish military, we showed them exactly where these people operated and where to find them. And they know that this is not the case.
I think it is tragic that people who have made a profession, a living from raising money from churches to go look for Noah's Ark are so resistant to all the evidence that we have. I think that's tragic, and I feel sorry for these people. I think it is a real tragedy that someone would take this tack. But there is so much evidence that they can say these things. I have had people call church preachers that have seen the evidence that we have and tell them that there is no national park, there's no Noah's Ark, there is no visitor center, and everything Ron Wyatt says is a lie. Well, these preachers have seen on video, and some of them in real life, the visitor center, the national park, Noah's Ark, and all the evidence. So these people have absolutely no credibility with folks that have seen the evidence. And I feel sorry for somebody that puts themselves in that position, because they have been offered the opportunity to work with us on Noah's Ark and on the other things that we're working on. And folks, there's nobody more skeptical or critical of archaeological things than I am. And we document everything on video. We do chemical analysis, we do subsurface interface radar, we do everything to prove or disprove. And everything we've done on Noah's Ark is positive, no negatives whatsoever. And again, I wish these people would expend their efforts helping to document these things rather than taking pop shots at us. But that's their choice.
Why would people play hardball with you and try to cast doubt on your work?
Well, once again, if you have made, let's share something with you here that's not commonly known. You're not allowed to climb Mount Ararat without you're accompanied and assisted by registered, licensed mountain guides. Now, all of these men, when they come back down the mountain, have to debrief to their superiors and tell them everything that the people they accompanied up the mountain did while they were up there, okay? In the Turkish files of all of these people, it tells exactly what they did. And I'll share it with you without sharing names. One individual came to Turkey in 1955, carried a chunk of wood up the mountain to the 12,500 foot level, deposited it in an ice crack, came back in 1957, tied a rope around that, pulled it out, photographed it, and said he found Noah's Ark. Got a lot of mileage out of that. Another group that's very well known and has really badmouthed me something awful, they raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, go over to the Kent Hotel in the middle of August when all the journalists know the Ark hunters are coming. They'll sit around over a bowl of borscht soup and brag about their exploits as CIA agents. The next day, the papers are full of statements that the American Ark hunters are CIA agents. Now, the Turkish authorities are smart enough to know that a real CIA agent does not go around saying he's a CIA agent. But the people that read all of those papers don't know that. So the government cannot issue these people a permit. So these people come back, tell their supporters, well, those godless Turks won't let us go up there and look for the Ark. They know it's there, but they won't let us look. Meanwhile, they keep the money. Another time, when they actually got a permit, they went to the 10,000 foot level on the backside of the mountain. It's called the Uder side. You heard about the bear went over the mountain to see what he could see, and the other side, or Uder side of the mountain, was all he could see. These people camped out there for 2 weeks, had a beer, whiskey drinking, card playing party, came back and reported that they had been attacked by bears, bandits, wolves, and struck by lightning. In the Turkish files, they have exactly what these people did. And so if you're making a very lucrative living looking for Noah's Ark, there is some resistance to admitting that it's actually been found.
So you're saying that they're trying to cast doubt on you because your work is honing in on their scheme?
We have found Noah's Ark. The Turkish government has sent scientists out there with us who have gone side by side with us, have stood there when we dug up a chunk of petrified deck timber, and they know this is Noah's Ark. We know it's Noah's Ark, and if you folks had opportunity to look at the video and the chemical analysis, the subsurface scans that we have, you would know it's Noah's Ark. There's inscriptions, there's giant pierced anchor stones with inscriptions on them, all the proof that any honest individual could possibly ask for. And so draw your own conclusion. These people are aware that these things exist. As a matter of fact, I've had some of these people ask me to allow them to look at and analyze and photograph some of our material, and I've let them do it, and they stole it. I've had 6 hours of 16mm colored film stolen. I've had a chunk of petrified wood with a spike through it stolen by these individuals, and now they want me to keep giving them more stuff. They tell people, well, he won't allow us to look at it. Well, folks, you're an idiot if you get took 3 times, if you know what I'm saying. I've tried as much as I can to allow them access to this material, but they steal it.
Do you have did you shoot any videotape or gather any physical evidence from your captors?
Well, this cane, I sprung my right ankle and twisted my knee. One of them made this for me. But if you want, verification, you can call the State Department in Turkey, the Turkish American Embassy, and ask them. You can read the Turkish papers. Shall we say, this is so well documented that even these folks that are so quick to say I'm a liar, I doubt seriously would challenge the validity of this.
What's next for you between now and next June when you go back?
Well, we're working in the Red Sea. We found chariot parts. In there, we found a column that apparently was erected one on each side of the crossing site by order of King Solomon. The one on the Saudi side is inscribed. The other one was, but either it was chiseled away. When we found the column, it was knocked over into the surf, and it could have been eroded away by that being there for all these many years. And we have all this on video, folks. I don't ask anybody to believe anything I say, because I wouldn't if I were in your place. But I do invite you to look at the video. And it's very hot in this area in the summertime, and winter's coming on. If we have the means, the financial means to do this, I would like to continue our search for the cartouche, or the identifying inscription of the Pharaoh of the Exodus. There's some debate as to who that individual was. Also, over in northwest Saudi Arabia at Jebel El Lawz are all of the things that Moses and the Habiru left behind when they went north. There's a big altar there. There's a stone corral where they kept sacrificial animals before they sacrificed them. There's 12 massive pillars of stone that were set up. There's towers 18 feet wide, at the top, about 22 feet in height, double wall, spaced 5 feet apart, that go all around this section of that mountain. And this is all described, in the first few chapters of the Bible. There's a white marble shrine with an inscription dedicated to the mountain of God by King Solomon in archaic Hebrew script or Phoenician script. They're very similar. And so we would like to work on that because it's very hot out there.
What about the next few days? I mean, now that you're back in the United States, what are the immediate 2 or 3 days going to be like for you?
Well, we've been invited to Atlanta as quickly as we can get back down there for a program on CNN. We were interviewed as we came through Atlanta, but that had to be very quick because our plane was about an hour late. And I would like to, be able to answer questions about this. And since this did get some attention, I would like to use it to share the research information on Noah's Ark. There's a lot of people that hadn't heard about it, and I think that I would be less than, I would be very ignorant not to use this opportunity to allow folks to become aware of this. Now, I don't make a living off of my archaeology. I make a living off putting people to sleep for surgery. And I use the money, other than just household expenses, from my anesthesia work for this work. I'm not in this for money. I long ago figured out that my IQ is just slightly greater than my shoe size. So I'm not trying to impress anybody with my brilliance or anything like that. We're just out to document these fantastic archaeological remains and share them with other people. That's our whole motivation.
How many trips have you had total over there, and how have you been funding it?
Well, that's quite embarrassing. I've been there somewhere near 30 times. That doesn't represent a great deal of efficiency. We have, by and large, been financing it with our own anesthesia earnings.
What kind of culture shock is it to go through all this and be back here now? What are you going through?
Well, this was camping out in the roughest sense of the word. And I'm a Korean veteran. I got all of the mud and sleeping out in rainstorms and all of that I wanted there. Long ago, I decided I'd do my camping out at the Holiday Inn and my picnicking at Bonanza or somewhere. So this was not anything that I enjoyed, and it's something that I will try to avoid every way I can think of. And I am thrilled to death to be back. There was a great deal of the time that we were out there that I could not visualize ever seeing my family again, and that's not an enjoyable feeling.
Can your wife come up and like her?
Yes.
Find out.
I'd like to say that when I proposed to this young lady, I told her that it wasn't going to be easy to be married to me. And after a few events that have already taken place, she said that I didn't give her adequate warning. So this was the worst thing that's happened so far to her. What are you there like a champ?
What are you going through? We saw that you had to go there after he described some of his captivity, and obviously the past few days have been jubilation with the past 3 weeks and coming up to today. What are you going through? I saw that you had to leave for a little bit when he was describing his captivity.
Well, I wasn't overjoyed when I heard what he went through, Glad they had him home.
How does he look? Any different? I mean, how has he changed us?
Skinnier. Lots.
What gave you hope that he would be coming home, that he would return, that he would come home safe?
The only time I got any peace about it at all was after I prayed about it, because I was just distraught when I first found out. And then my daughter and I, we stood in the hall and I said, Amanda, we got to pray, because we can't do anything. And we did. And we've been completely at peace about it. Since then, I always knew we would be back home. I never doubted it.
And he wants to go back. What are your feelings on that next summer?
Next time I'll go with him. This could happen to a person anywhere. It could happen to you in Nashville. Maybe not by the Kurds, but by somebody. I'm not concerned.
But you're going too.
Well, if it's in June, I will. I can't go when Amanda's in school.
She'd been there this trip if our daughter hadn't been in school. I'm delighted that we have stepdaughter in school and that she wasn't alone. It's not been any fun. Allow me to add that in 1974, while my two sons and I were working in Saudi Arabia on some archaeological projects, some of these folks that are now our critics called the Saudi Arabian embassy and told them that the Wyatts were Israeli spies posing as archaeologists. That cost us 78 days in prison in Saudi Arabia, some very frightening interrogation, and that was no fun either. So my sons, what did I say? 84, I'm sorry. So this is not the first time this has happened. I sincerely hope that it's the last time.
I'm kind of unclear about where they were planning on taking you when they brought you down from the mountain in the car. What were they going to do then?
Well, they told us that they were going to take us to a hotel and bingo. But they
set you free, or
that was what they said, and they coached us on what to say. Now, I did not tell them I would or would not say what they coached us, but I promise you I did make it look like I was willing to say it, you know what I mean? Because had they thought we were going to tell the police all of their little hideouts, they would have killed us. We would not have gotten out of there alive. Now then, 3 of the members of our group went into kind of a state of shock just about the time they got captured, and they believed everything they were told by the terrorists, even though the terrorists lied to us repeatedly. I talked to a psychologist that worked with us at Incirlik Air Force Base about what would cause this, and they said that it was a mental protective device. And when I stopped the car for them to get out, they yelled at me for risking their lives in a car wreck. I couldn't believe this. That's why I talked to the psychologist about it. But he said that people in that state of mind, they have been safe, or at least hadn't got killed during 21 days, and so their inclination is to continue to accept what they are told. But anyway, after this person got through the military cordon, he had a handgun under the dash and a grenade. And these folks are suicidal, if you know much about Arabs. All these people were not Turks. There were Syrian Arabs there, there was some Russians there, and some Iranian Arabs. There was quite a collection of people that we met that came through and, shall we say, asked us some questions and accused us of all kinds of horrible things. They said the American people are great, but the government is imperialist and it's got to go, and that you ought to give all of your land back to the Indians, a little bit of it. And we tried to explain to them that the Indians had found oil under their reservations and were a lot richer than I am. They didn't want to hear that, of course. But anyway, what they were discussing, I understand Arabic and Turkish to a fair degree. They were wanting to take us into northern Iraq or into Syria, where they could hold us as long as they wanted to. And anyway, my personal belief is when this individual got through the military encirclement, he decided that it was not going to be a hotel, but it was going to be across the border. And so the first opportunity I had, I grabbed him and forcibly stopped the car, and we got out and hurried back to meet the military.
Were you in the front seat of the car?
I was in the back seat right behind the driver. I was in the ideal spot to grab him. It's a little hard to kick it out of gear and to steer it from back there, but it wasn't nearly as bad as sleeping out there in the cold for 21 days. It was a very miserable situation.
Were any of the people that, if I understand correctly, none of the people that kidnapped you were taken into custody by the Turkish army?
That's correct. They were not. What happened after we left, I don't know. But we went to their maps. Actually, one of our members, Richard Reeves, took one of the officers out and showed him the road that we had been brought on. When we left, they have enough information to round these people up. Now, I told these folks did not have tear gas or any kind of gas masks, and the vast majority of them, folks, are teenage children. You know, there's people today that snooker your children and get them to do all kinds of horrible things. This is what has happened out there. So I asked these people if they had the opportunity at all to try to tear gas these folks and sort them out without killing these kids.
Have you been through any kind of government debriefings, either from the Turkish government or the United States?
2 days of American military debriefing and 1 day of Turkish. Anyway, we wanted to try to help eliminate the possibility of other people being taken hostage. It's no fun, and we would like for people to be able to go out and see the remains of Noah's Ark without being at risk. Now, so we cooperated with both the Turkish government, its intelligence section, and of course the American intelligence people. I apologized to them because I had allowed myself and my group to get caught. They expressed the idea that they had gotten a tremendous amount of useful information out of this, and aside from our being put through all of this, they were glad it happened. So if they're happy, I'm out and I'm happy.
One more thing, were you ever tied up? I mean, you said they forced you to sleep during the day or lie down during the day?
No, but when somebody points a gun at you with one of those big banana clips full of bullets that can chew you right up, you do exactly what they say, or at least I do.
One other thing, just generally, can you tell me what it would mean, if this actually is the Ark, what it means to the biblical and religious community?
Well, it actually is the Ark. What it will do, it will show that the Bible is accurate historically. There is a lot of misinformation that is out. For example, it's told very commonly that it takes 1 million years for a piece of wood to petrify. The wood is the template upon which the dissolved minerals are deposited, and petrification must take place at the decay rate of that particular piece of wood in that particular setting, and it never exceeds 500 years. So that's a bunch of baloney. Back when at the Scopes monkey trial, shall we say, all of the creationists ran for cover and the evolutionists had a heyday. They could say anything and get away with it. In fact, back when I first started working or studying this stuff, there was an article in one of the popular magazines, and this so-called scientist was holding a sesamoid bone of a large animal, and he said, from this single bone I can reconstruct a 60-ton dinosaur. Well, they don't say that today because nobody would buy it, but he did back then. If you go to the Smithsonian Institute and look at their Tyrannosaurus Rex, you will find that it is a large kangaroo skeleton whose teeth are capped to make it look ferocious. Okay? And if you look at their Brontosaurus, you'll find that it's an elephant skeleton that's had a giraffe neck and another head placed on it. All of these bones are disarticulated out there. They can dig them up. They've got truckloads of bones. They've got all kinds of vertebra. And if somebody would believe it, they could put together a 3-mile long snake and stick some head on it and call it Snakeus longus. I mean, this is possible. Most of you have worked with these little toys that you can put together and make anything you want to, and that is what has happened with these skeletons. Before the flood, there was a whole different set of environmental conditions much more nutrition, and the animals lived a lot longer and got a lot bigger. And that is why we have all these giant skeletons and things around them. Which reminds me, please, thank you. Well, somewhere. One of the projects we're working on is to find giant human remains. If you'll look at this thumb bone at the bottom of this picture, that is this bone. It's a human bone, the left thumb bone. Okay? Now then, that's 2.5 inches long. And I've shown this to radiologists and orthopedic surgeons. And the next one there is a pre-flood child, because you can tell by the degree of calcification of the epiphyseal junctures, if somebody here that's medically inclined. And then the one at the very top, that small one, is a post-flood lady's thumb bone. These are all free from the exact same position on the human body. And so the Bible says there were giants in the earth in those days. Folks, there were giants in the earth in those days. And we intend to get one of these together so that you can see it. They're sad to say there are people out there that don't want you to find out what the truth is about these things. Back when Mr. Carnegie was paying these paleontologists to dig all this stuff up, there was a big bonus in finding something very exciting. And one of the guys took a bunch of spare bones that he had gathered out of his dig, snuck them over into the other fellow's dig area. This fellow put it all together and gave it a name, and the other fellow blew the whistle on him and said, that's a bunch of bones, and one of them's from this animal, one's from that animal, one's from that animal. Guess what Mr. Carnegie did? He gave the fellow a big bonus, put the thing on display. Nothing was ever said about it, the whole thing being a hoax or a joke that one of them played on the other. And so this is the type of information that people consider scientific information today. And we are out to change that. Now, I'll say this. I feel obligated when I would dig something up to carefully record every detail, to put it through all the tests that I can afford to have it put through, and provide that information to people. I feel as if I go to all that work and expense, that entitles me to give my opinion of what this means. However, I feel that I have to provide accurate data to other people so that they can look at it, evaluate it, and if they choose to arrive at another conclusion, that's their privilege. But people that withhold material, bring stuff in from another dig site so it makes it appear that they found something in another one that's called salting, very common practice, and keeping things from being deciphered. There's basements full of cuneiform and hieroglyphic inscriptions that prove that history is exactly what the Bible says. The Harris Papyrus, for example, when it first came out, it had all the dynasties of Egypt listed, and they fit exactly into the Bible chronology. But guess what? The Harris Papyrus was caught in a fire, damaged, and so we don't have that data around anymore. So anyway, our efforts are to provide accurate information to people. What they do with it is their own business.